Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Tomb Raider Underworld walkthrough. It's time for us to head down this massive hole in the ground, which is slightly terrifying. But we don't really have much of an option now, so all we've got to do is jump! And by jump I mean carefully drop down and attempt to safely grab a ledge. And then we have to drop and grab the ring. Because otherwise you are just going to go straight to your death. And that's not going to be pretty. Now, this is basically the last part of coastal Thailand, and that's probably for the best, because I think I'd probably go slightly insane otherwise.
Strength came from.
And so, with the use of the gauntlet, we can move anything with this weird blue glowy pattern on it, which is going to be used to basically get, I think, the relic for this area. Although I could be wrong. I can't remember when I got the relic. I'm pretty sure it's in this room, and it is something that we will be getting, but it's been a little while since I last did commentary on Tomb Raider Underworld, and by it's been a while, it's about a week. So, all memory that I have of the situation is a little bit hazy. But whilst we begin this puzzle, there's something that I kind of want to bring up. Because I don't know what brought about the memory of it. I think it was just returning to Tomb Raider and just thinking, what can I talk about in this part? Because we've done all the Thailand stuff, and we've done most of the gameplay. There's not really a whole lot left, it's just this final puzzle room. I believe there may be a cutscene coming up very shortly, and then after that it's just get the relic / artifacts and then get the hell out of here. And I am indeed correct about a cutscene, so I'll get into my tangent after this, because this is very, very interesting.
This was here long before the upper temple was added. Proto-Norse runes again. My son, your treasures here and far, this gauntlet's twin, your belt Megingjord, and the mighty Mjolnir, are protected by the dead to keep Jormungandr subdued. But the map's been destroyed, and recently. If one of Thor's gauntlets was here, it's gone now. What's this? Natla, I see your goal and am your puppet no longer. Richard James Croft. Father did this. RJC. Strange. Father never used his middle initial in monograms to avoid confusion with his father. That's where you hid the artifact. You sly old fox. Now, if I can just make it back to the boat.
So, there we go. We've just found out that Richard Croft has been here before, on his hunt to try and find out what the hell happened to his wife. And, as you can probably tell, we may or may not end up falling into Natla's trap, considering Richard Croft decided, I ain't gonna follow through with all this, and destroyed the map and took the artifacts. But as we quickly grab a rather easy artifact and begin our attempt to get the relic, and also get out of this room, I shall go on that tangent I was talking about. So, I think it was at some point last year, it might have been in 2013, and in fact it probably was 2013 to be honest. There was an infographic that made its way around the internet about hair and fur advances in special effects. Because we've come a hell of a long way since the days of early CGI. Like, it's ridiculous. So, I mean, it's a really cool infographic because it's at the back of a head and it's got a quarter Aki's hair from Final Fantasy Spirits Within, it's got a quarter Merida's hair from Brave, a quarter Sully's fur from Monsters University, a warg from The Hobbit, and it's also got Lara's ponytail. And basically it details exactly how many strands of hair there are in these models, and also how long it took to render those models. So Aki in Final Fantasy Spirits Within, that was 2001, and that was like the first, well, really the first attempt at proper photorealistic CGI, and that was incredible at the time. It was terrifyingly lifelike. Obviously now it's not quite as good, and also it really didn't need the name Final Fantasy because it has nothing to do with the series, but either way. So she had 60,000 hair strands on her model, and it took them 36 hours to render 1 second of film at 24 frames per second. So that was pretty impressive. But then by 2012, you have Merida's hair, which is obviously ginger and massively curly, and it's ridiculous. So Merida has 111,700 hair strands, and 1 second of film at 24 frames per second only takes 8 minutes to render. So in 11 years they've managed to just about double the number of hair strands used in models, but they've doubled it and yet somehow managed to cut the time from 36 hours down to 8 minutes, which is bonkers. And then you have the wargs and Sully with fur, which is just completely ridiculous. So the wargs in the 2012 Hobbit: An Unexpected Journey have 5 million fur strands, and for 1 second of film at 48 frames per second it took 960 hours to render, which is ridiculous. Sully in Monsters University has 5,400,000 fur strands, and while that did only take them 696 hours, that was at 24 frames per second, but so it took them 29 days to render Sully's model, whereas the wargs took 40 days, which is ridiculous. But what's really quite amazing is that in Tomb Raider Underworld, which is the game that they... well, I think they mean Tomb Raider the reboot, because of Tress effects, and that is indeed what they're referring to. Ooh, failure on the infographics part. So, in the reboot of the game, of the Tomb Raider franchise, Lara has 21,000 hair strands. But what's really quite spectacular is that it's 0 seconds to render at real time. So they've got 21,000 hair strands moving with physics in real time. And that would have been unthinkable in 2001. And I think we are getting further and further into animated hair just being ridiculously well done. Also, there is the relic, which I'm very glad was somewhat easy to get. The worst bit of that whole thing is the wall swing, but it happens.
And I am Thor no longer, it seems. I wonder how he charged it up again.
But yes, if you want to see that infographic, just type in like hair fur advances and special effects in infographic into Google and I'm sure it will turn up. But technology's improved dramatically over the years. It boggles the mind. And don't worry, I will be going into stuff about Richard James Croft and Richard Croft in the next part. I was thinking of planning on doing it this part, but I seem to have managed to spend a remarkable amount of time talking about hair and fur. Which is, I think, a remarkably impressive feat. Because it's a really specific bit. I mean, obviously the reboots, resurface is only a thing in the PC version, when they introduced resurface and the definitive editions. But, I mean, having said that, I do sort of prefer the modelling on the Underworld model, but that's another story. Now, even though I'm hanging around here like a lunatic, basically what I need to do is drop down and swim through a hole, but I got a little bit confused as to where that was. It's there. That's where you need to swim to get out. I'm just completely and utterly blind, and have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. But thankfully it is very remarkably easy just to get from here to the end of the level, so once you've realised, don't be an idiot like me, you can finish this thing in no time at all, really. They were quite nice when they designed this area. There's not a whole lot of backtracking through the entire dungeon, because you have a little bit of... well, the path takes you round, almost, which is quite helpful. And I think I've finally spotted the hole. There we go, past me. See, it wasn't that difficult. Now you can probably see here Lara's breath meter. Obviously this doesn't matter in most of the underwater segments in the game, but when you have a situation like this where Lara doesn't have her magical scuba gear, then you are under a time limit to get through the water. Otherwise you will die. But pretty much there aren't many situations where you are going to be wanting for time to get through these things. There's perhaps one moment in one of the DLC parts that you will be worried about, and that's it. But there we go. All we need to do now is get to the boat. There we go. Coastal Thailand is complete. And it'll be time to head to our next location, which is a little bit closer to home than you may suspect.
There was a map, but Father destroyed it.
Well, the acorn certainly didn't fall very far from the tree.
He did it deliberately, to keep the information from Natla. But I'm sure he recorded everything first, and what's more, he found Thor's other gauntlet.
Where'd he put it?
Right under your nose.